And we are back here live with your host, Tyler Falk. And it's now time for the People's Presser, where you guys get to act like SFL reporters and you get to ask me a whole bunch of questions and I'm put on the spot and have to answer them. So let's head on over to the show question channel of the NETMA Discord and take a look at what you guys put in there. And at the beginning of the show, there was nothing in there. It was like mothballs in there. It was hard to clean out from every single day of inactive use. Now it's a filled to the brim pretty much. So thank you so much for participating in the People's Presser. All right, let's start with the first question on the docket. Let's start with Bo Martin Jr. is what team makes the biggest leap forward and backwards? Now, it's really too soon to tell for a lot of this stuff. If you want to give me a team that really steps forward this season, just based on what we've seen in the off season, what we've seen in the draft, that is a very tough one. Now, I could pull a leg here and say, oh, London is gonna fall off the face of the earth. Well, yeah, because they're not even gonna play a single game. But if you're wondering where these questions are, they're in the the NETMA server Discord, first time back, NETMA Discord server, link to which is down in the description of this video. I mean, I think as far as taking a step back goes, I think you have to look at Sioux Falls. We'll talk about them here more in a little bit, but I think Sioux Falls takes a step back. I think they lost a lot of people. I believe Nick Fargo is gone. I believe a lot of that core on defense got reshuffled around. Let me just make sure I'm talking about everybody correctly. That way I'm not getting things out of no, Nick Fargo moved to defensive end. He wasn't a linebacker. He moved to defensive end. That's going to look different. Sioux Falls only has 2 linebackers in a new era in which running the football will be so much more pivotal. And you have a lot of teams now with solid offensive lines, with contracted personnel solely dedicated to being on the offensive line. I really think that Sioux Falls might struggle this season. I think every team with 23 active players on their roster is going to struggle this season. Now, you'll see a very big difference, in my opinion, based on that. Because the teams that had to get to 23 and could only get to 23 due to the salary cap are just hamstrung in a way. Because we got teams like Alamo City over here who have got 34 players already having signed the dotted line, and they have nearly $3 million more in salary. $3 million more SFL dollars in salary. You now take a look at a team like Louisiana. They've got nearly $10 million more than what Sioux Falls will be able to do, what Denver will be able to do, what I believe Jacksonville will be able to do. I think Sioux Falls is going to struggle. We might see teams that really did a fantastic job in this draft take an early edge. So Louisiana, I think, stands more of a chance of making the playoffs this season than they did last season, even just by their draft. Have you seen the contracts for their new 2 running backs? Dwayne Salmons, Chris Grant Jr., totaling over $8 million. You're not going to get that in a team that has to stay below a price point. You've got maybe, I think Seattle might turn a corner. They might be able to make the postseason this time around, but it only depends on how much work they put into type attack. Now, I said it earlier on the episode 0 show, so for those of you that weren't part of the server yet and want to hear my opinion, I think though type attack is a great character pick and a great quarterback, he is not, as far as potential value, the right pick. If you want to win now, you would have picked a guy like Brown, picked Madison's quarterback, picked Albuquerque's quarterback, picked San Jose's. I think San Jose's quarterback was about the same, but you get what I'm saying, right? Type attack was the third best quarterback in terms of value, which is not for the faint of heart. So Seattle might do well. Louisiana might do well. I think Sioux Falls, any team that has to play with the cap, struggles. All right, let's go on to the next question. Best and worst draft. That's coming up in the next segment. We'll get to that here in a second. Who's the steal of the draft? That's a great question, Guy Clausen. As far as the steal of the draft goes for Ortoros, Sunny Sky is a really good steal as far as character pick goes. Sunny Sky is active in a couple different leagues, but is committed. If you want someone with commitment, you drafted Sunny Sky right there. Middle of the pack as far as value goes, top tier as it comes to sticking with it. And that's also what type attack brings. Type attack, he lives and breathes longevity. He lives and breathes stability. Same thing with Kenny Slider and Logan Lee. They breed stability. They've hung it out in the minors for this long. They will more than likely stick with an SFL team for that long. Another steal of the draft, I would have to say, Timothy Mossam King to Vancouver. We'll talk about Vancouver and the crazy draft that they had here in a second, but Timothy Mossam King, one of the best wide receivers on the board, doesn't go until the second to last pick. Come on. Ay. So, couple steals of the draft. Without being privy to the salary, to the 22 salary cap, Eddie Gage asks, do you think Alamo City will be able to retain all their players at the current value? They currently have 34 players, most on any active roster. If that salary cap is, that's not even the biggest problem. Like I said, Louisiana is going to be the biggest problem. They have 34 million in salary cap right now. Alamo City has about 27, 28 million. That's a big, big difference. So I don't even think players are going to be the issue. It's going to be as we continue to build us back up to about maybe the same standard we were as far as SFL last season, working out all the kinks and everything. I don't think players will be the issue, because though in order for Alamo City to do this, they cut back on a lot of key pieces. They brought everyone really far deep back into this pack. Example, Brad Jones is the highest paid guy on the team right now, $3.2 million. The next closest guy is $1.5 million lower than him. At $1.7 million, that's quarterback Ace Fennick. Top three guys on their roster are offensive players. And we will see that everywhere. You will see that everywhere. Everyone is paying their offensive people. They're cutting back more on defense. Will that make the SFL much more of a high-scoring game like we used to see in the season 1 through season 15 time frame of the SFL, where we could see maybe a 60-point game from a team more often? Are we going to see more blowouts? Are we going to see more neck and neck games with a lot of points, over 100 points? Still a lot of stuff to work out. Still a lot of stuff to delve into on that regard. So like I said, Players not the issue. It's how big you're paying these players. I think what the league will do, what they should do in terms of the cap for season 22, we're already talking about season 22, is look at the average, the median, and the range of these salaries right now, what they look like at the end of the season, and come up with a number that best gets a rough range, a rough mean of both numbers that they come up with. I think we'll probably see maybe 30 million in cap for next season, maybe 35 million in cap for next season. Don't know, but I think Louisiana is going to be hit with the cap bug in season 22. This is a win or nothing, a win at SFL championship or nothing for Louisiana. Okay, who is the biggest winning player? Robert Cherry asks, who is the biggest winning players in the league / SFL directly caused by the draft, and who was the biggest losing players? Winning players, quarterbacks. 5 quarterbacks taken this season. 1 or 2 of them may be starters. 1 or 2 of them may be starters, and I am sure that Dwayne and everybody in Motor City did not like what I had to say on air on the draft, where I said I think they have to look at a quarterback's controversy right now. They have to take a look at Ibrahim Krita and say, are you really the best selection at quarterback for us? Michael Brown. When you have a championship winning, SFLM championship winning quarterback waiting in the wings. I digress. Quarterbacks 1. 5 I'm going to take off the board when in previous seasons you would only see 1. Losing players, the most losing players, I don't think we really had too much of any players. I think with the second largest draft in the league, yes, I think the players left outside were the losers of this draft, but at the same time, with how many people left the SFLM to come into the league this season, that leaves the door open for more possibilities. Because we will have 100. I gotta do some math here. We'll have 112 picks next season. Because we'll have that 28th team returning. Whether it be wherever Johnny Pickler takes him or somewhere else. Let's see. Bo Martin Jr., this is the final question. We got to wrap up here in about a minute. What do you think about teams drafting players that have either never talked to or talked to them just as they're about to pick them? Sometimes it's the nature of the beast. Sometimes that's how things happen. You think everyone you think is going to be available, and all of a sudden your entire board is wiped. You have to talk to somebody before you draft them. And sometimes you just have to make a split-second decision and take them. But for like the first 2 rounds, you should have a good idea of who you're picking. You should have already talked to that pick or two. But after that, it all comes down to I personally, you should talk to those players after that.